Whoever's taking it, this is it. All right, so here we go. For nearly a year, I have been greatly disturbed by the attacks on the Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright and the Trinity United Church of Christ, which has culminated in recent weeks into a media feeding frenzy that has tarnished everyone in the process. For 36 years, this man of God and of the gospel and noted theologian has faithfully served his church, his community, and his God by helping those who could not help themselves and by lifting up those who had lost hope. Dr. Wright's ministry has been consistent and his commitment to the faith unmatched. While media critics who have not spent a day in seminary and have no idea how to exegete the gospel might find his sermons objectionable, Dr. Wright's theology and sermonic delivery are deeply rooted in the faith and sacred traditions of the black church. For those who, and you can talk back if you want, for those who do not know the black church, or for those who simply have not taken the time to do this research, here is a mini history lesson. For the first 150 years of slavery, no organized religious body ever attempted to convert those who were enslaved. We established our own congregations and churches based on our African ancestral traditions, mixed with the gospel of Jesus Christ. In the process, we became committed to the idea of freedom. There were over 300 known slave rebellions in the United States, and the vast majority of which were led by preachers of that day, like Denmark Vesey and Nat Turner. Because of that, two white men had to always be present to monitor any slave-led church service. But let me tell you, they were left in the dark sometimes when we started moaning and groaning and they didn't know what was going on. We were communicating. You can float a whole body of knowledge on the moan and the groan. Even while enslaved, we had preachers and pastors who spoke to our needs and our condition. Now, there have always been accommodationist preachers, those who go along to get along. In biblical terms, they are false prophets. A prophet is simply one who speaks on behalf of God and God's people. A true prophet speaks truth to power and is never politically correct. The Old Testament prophets were not politically correct. The Apostle Paul was not politically correct. And Jesus, the Son of God, was not politically correct. Jesus upset the status quo. He disrupted the comfortable. Remember, he got angry and threw the money changers out of the temple. Jesus raised holy hell. And I'm not cussing. Just don't go there. So why can't Dr. Wright? You see, true prophets speak for God, use colorful language, and occasionally use a non-traditional method to get their message across. There's a strong historical and contextual relationship between the slave preacher and the social justice activist preacher of today. And there is a place and a role for God's angry prophets. Think of Amos, Micah, Isaiah, and Jeremiah. They spoke on God's behalf to kings, to the poor, and the enemies of their nation. Then there are 20th and 21st century prophets like Vernon Johns, Martin Luther King Jr., Samuel DeWitt Proctor, and Jeremiah A. Wright Jr. The difference between the false prophets and the true prophets is that false prophet speaks to what the masses and those in power want to hear. The true prophet speaks the truth no matter how painful. There is a price to be paid for being a prophet. And Dr. Wright is now paying that price, both publicly and privately. It was the author Alex Haley who underscored the role and the relationship of the black pastor and their congregations. He said, African-American pastors are akin to the African griot, a leader, shepherd, father, and one in whom the story of one's people has been embodied. For Trinity United Church of Christ and the greater African-American faith community, Dr. Wright has been a formidable griot. At age 81, I am an elder in this tribe of social justice preachers, but I too can say the legacy and reach of Dr. Wright's ministry has influenced my faith. So what has been lost in inflammatory rhetoric and talking heads of this day is that Dr. Wright, a theological scholar who speaks 5 languages fluently and has inspired a church to create over 100 fully functioning ministries, created 7 separate corporations, led thousands to Christ, speaks Sunday after Sunday out of a long and storied, proud, and prophetic tradition of our faith. And he speaks in the tradition of the slave preacher and the social justice proclaimer who believed in setting the captives free. Dr. Wright represents the best among us, one of the best in this tribe of prophetic preachers. He has made